Howdy folks, Spencer here, and today I'll be reviewing the Parliament Merc Worker Surveyor Cruiser. This is a ship that has a bit of a reputation for being one of the weaker T6 cruisers in Star Trek Online, and I want to go in and see if that reputation holds true in 2024. As always, chapters are listed down below. Now, some of you are probably wondering, why am I talking about the Parliament in 2024 when it was released into the Infinity Lockbox all the way back in September of 2021? Well, the reason that I'm taking a look at it today is because it's looking increasingly likely that the Parliament is going to be the premium ship in the upcoming 14th anniversary bundle. The reason that I'm getting this impression is because they've inserted the Parliament into the Battle of Wolf 359, and they are promoting it on all of the stuff that they're doing related to Wolf 359. You can see it even right at the top of the picture that they released earlier today that Pundus had created. So it's really looking likely that this is the ship that they're leaning towards for the 14th anniversary bundle. And for those of you not familiar with how these anniversary bundles work, if you look back at the 12th or 13th bundles, there's going to be a couple new C-Store ships that you can pick up on their own or via the bundle. And then if you buy the entire bundle, there's some bundle exclusives. And for the past couple of years, it's been a premium lockbox or promotional tier ship that if you purchase the bundle, you're getting on account-wide unlock. So the reason that the 12th bundle is so popular is because it's got the Mirror Angle Strike Wing Escort in it, which is the ship that has superior area denial for all the pet builds. So if you buy the 12th bundle, you get that ship and all of its accessories like its Starship Trait on account-wide unlock. For the 13th, we saw that with the Mirror Crossfield, but once they received a very negative response to that ship, they also tossed in the Styx as another bundle exclusive, and the Styx, one of the best tanking platforms in the game, was a great incentive to people to go out and pick that bundle up. So if they're looking at putting the Parliament in the 14th bundle, I want to give an up-to-date assessment on how good or bad the ship is in the current state of the game. And as for the origin of this ship, it is from Star Trek Lower Decks, and it was actually the first Lower Decks ship put into Star Trek Online back in September of 2021. Now, the controversial part of it is that they decided to put the first Lower Deck ship directly into the Infinity Lockbox. So this has been available from the T6 prize packs for quite some time now. This has been an option in the event campaign premium ship box for the past 2 or so years, and it's also been accessible on the player exchange for quite some time. So it is a loot box obtained ship. It's not one that you can currently get on account-wide unlock, but like I said, that's looking likely to change here with the 14th bundle. And as far as customization options go, you can change the materials and you can change the windows, but that's it. There's no way to physically change the dimensions of the ship here. And it does have access to all of the standard Federation materials that you're used to seeing. And then it's got its unique Parliament one there, which as far as I'm aware is not usable on other ships. But it does have that lower decks aesthetic if that's what you're into. And for the windows here, there's also these unique Parliament windows. But I have found that there is a bug with the windows with Type 1. You saw that when I went to select it, like everything was white there. But when I click it, it fixes all but the right side here. That's not present on the left. So I don't know what's up there, but if I apply that, I am still seeing that effect when I look at the ship here in my stats window. So yeah, just be aware that some of the windows may be bugged with the ship. But if this is indeed a ship that's going to be part of the upcoming bundle, then I would expect that they'll probably do another pass to make sure everything looks fine. And heading over to the stats, the Parliament has a hull modifier of 1.45, a shield mod of 1.125, 4 weapons, 4 aft, 4 device slots. For the consoles, you're looking at 2 tactical, 5 engineering, 4 science, and 1 universal. So once you take this up to T6X2, you'll have 3 universal console slots on the ship. Base turn rate of 8.5, impulse mod of 0.15, inertia rating of 0.4, For the power bonuses, you're looking at +10 to weapons and aux, +5 to engines and shields. Being a Merc Worker ship, it does have the innovation ship mechanic and their longer duration quantum slipstream drive. You've got the full set of cruiser commands, and it has the cruiser mastery package, so plus kinetic and physical damage resistance, plus regen, plus energy and radiation damage resistance, and plus maximum hull capacity. And for the bridge officer setup, let me show you that in game here. The Parliament has a commander engineer with Merc Worker, a lieutenant engineer, a lieutenant commander science, a lieutenant tactical, and a lieutenant universal with Merc Worker. And before I get to the ship comparisons, I want to take a moment to explain why this ship was so poorly received back in 2021. So the first thing here is with the console layout. This is a ship that had 5 engineering consoles and 2 tactical. Now, if you're someone that has started up in the past year, you may not understand why that's an issue, because nowadays we have isomags, which make engineering heavy ships like this very good. But prior to 2023, isomags didn't exist. And the value of most ships was heavily attached to how many of the Spire tac consoles you could put on it, how many of the locators or exploiters you could put on the ship. So a ship like this that had 2 tac consoles and at the time just 2 universals, because X2 wasn't introduced until last year, it was highly undesirable because that's the Lorca tac console plus 3 locators or exploiters. Why would you use that over one of the other cruisers that, might be able to put the Lorca on alongside 4 or 5 locators or exploiters? So that was a big negative for the ship back then. But again, with isomags, that's no longer an issue. But that was definitely one of the big gripes with the ship when it was introduced back in 2021. Now, the other big gripe is with the bridge officer setup. The bridge officer setup on the Parliament is that it has a lieutenant tac plus a lieutenant universal with Merc Worker. Now, there's a couple different issues here. The first is that you can only have at most a lieutenant tactical for your abilities. So if you were wanting to run, say, an attack pattern Omega 1 or a rank 3 firing mode, you just couldn't do it on this ship. And with that lieutenant universal with Merc Worker, you could at least get a couple more attack abilities on, but even then it wasn't that amazing. Now, the other issue with this setup is that it's a commander Merc Worker plus a lieutenant Merc Worker. And remember, the Parliament is a premium lockbox tier ship. So having dual specializations that are the exact same, that is highly undesirable on a premium ship like this. You generally want the premium ships like this to have a primary of one specialization and then a different specialization on the secondary seat, because being able to go in and mix abilities from those 2 specializations is one of the ways that these premium ships are able to offer more value than the traditional C-store or event offerings. So this is a ship that at the time had an incredibly weak console setup. It's a 4-4 cruiser, which is increasingly less popular as time goes on. And then it's got a bridge officer setup that limits you to, at best, a lieutenant plus lieutenant tac, and a Miracle Worker plus Miracle Worker spec combo. So just had a couple different things going against it that caused it to be very poorly received, especially given that it was a lockbox ship, and as a lockbox ship, it's very difficult to get for even just a single character. And next up, I want to take a look at how the Parliament stacks up against some of the other Miracle Worker cruisers in the game. And the first comparison I want to do here is against the Daystrom Science Miracle Worker cruiser. Now, this comparison is going to be a bit rough because the Daystrom is one of the original Miracle Worker ships that was introduced back in October of 2017. And the Parliament is a premium lockbox ship that released 4 years later. And if you look at these two side by side, it does not look good for the Parliament. So the Daystrom has better hull and shield mod. The Daystrom does have a weaker turn rate versus the Parliament. The Daystrom has better impulse and inertia. They have the same power bonus. They have the same 4-4 weapon configuration. For the bridge officer layout, they both have a commander engineer with merc worker. They both have a lieutenant commander science. They both have a lieutenant tactical. However, the Daystrom has its merc worker secondary seat on the lieutenant fixed tack here. And the big difference is that with the Daystrom, instead of having a lieutenant engineer like you see on the Parliament, it has an ensign engineer, which enables the universal seat to be a lieutenant commander rather than a lieutenant like you see on the Parliament. So the Daystrom is a very comparable Miracle Worker cruiser that was introduced to the game 4 years before the Parliament was added. And the thing with the Daystrom is that it's a $30 C-Store ship. So the Daystrom is one of the weakest of the Miracle Worker cruisers that they added back then. And that's the one that the Parliament is being compared against. It's not a very good showing for the Parliament here. And the console layout here, at the time, the Daystrom was more desirable because it had an extra attack versus the Parliament. However, the Parliament does win out nowadays, having the 5 engineering consoles. But, between these two, if I'm in a position where I'm choosing between a ship that has a lieutenant tack at best versus a lieutenant commander tack, I'm going to go for that lieutenant commander universal that enables me to have the lieutenant commander tack because that gives me more build possibilities. So not a good start there for the Parliament. And the title of on the thumbnail is this the worst American or the worst cruiser in the game? And I did pull up a comparison of all of the other cruisers out there that have just a lieutenant tack and at best a lieutenant universal. Most of these are command ones, which that command means that they have access to concentrate firepower 3, so they still have some potential as like a torpedo platform or a tank platform. The only notable one here that actually sees a bit of use is the Baron, because people buy that for the console it has for tank builds. But aside from that, like none of these ships on this comparison here are really that notable. None of them really get that much use nowadays. But for the which one's worst here, the Parliament is close, but there is one ship that I think manages to pull out ahead and manages to be worse than the Parliament, and that is the Kabali Samzar. The Kabali Samzar can only have a lieutenant tack plus an ensign universal, so at best you can only have 3 tack abilities on it. And if you look at some of these other ships here, like the Brawn and the Quoj, those can potentially have 6 tack abilities on them. These other command battle cruisers, they can have 4, but again, they have access to command abilities, so that helps them quite a bit. So is the Parliament the worst Miracle Worker or the worst cruiser in the game? I would say no, but it probably is the worst Miracle Worker cruiser. It really is quite weak in that regard. Now, some other comparisons here. I've seen people compare this to the Fleet Excelsior. The Fleet Excelsior, I agree, is also a very weak cruiser platform. I do think I would rather fly the Parliament here than that Fleet Excelsior. The Fleet Excelsior does get a Lieutenant Commander Tactical, but it has no universal seating at all. It's got too much engineering for me, so I would rather have the Parliament over that. And another ship, just to really show just how poor the value of the Parliament is, the Lexington is a C-Store ship that was released just a couple months after the Parliament. And look at how much better the Lexington is for a Merc Worker cruiser, versus the Parliament. With the Lexington, it's got weaker hull capacity, but it does have better shields. Similar turn rate, impulse, and inertia. Power bonus slightly different. But the big thing with the Lexington You know, they both have a commander, engineer with miracle worker. The Lexington ditches the lieutenant commander science for a lieutenant commander universal. The Lexington then has lieutenant commander tack, a lieutenant tack with intel, an ensign science seat. You know, these are ships that released what, like 4 or 5 months apart. And the Lexington is a C-store ship. So you can purchase it for $30 and you have it on account-wide unlock. The Parliament, once you go in and get that, that's for just that one character. Unless they add it to the 14th bundle, in which case, then you could get it on account-wide unlock. But you can see here, the Lexington, given the current meta of the game, and especially having that different spec seat on it, is just much more desirable. And again, I just, the point of me saying all this is just to show that the Parliament is not a ship really worthy of being lockboxed here. The Parliament and its stats are worse than the other miracle worker cruisers out there, including the ones in the C-store. So the value of this for the platform itself is quite low, because there are better miracle worker cruisers already in the game that are so much more accessible. And next up, I want to take a look at the console-controlled gravimetric demolition. This console does legitimately have some endgame applications. This is used on some PvP builds, and there have been some support platforms for like torpedo DPS chasing that have also used this console. So the passives on it are 22.8 kinetic and physical damage resistance rating, plus 21.4 Starship hull capacity, plus 28.5 Starship EPG. And the clicky on this is going to deploy a demolition field platform grid around the target foe, and that will last for 30 seconds, disabling engines and applying a minus 15 kinetic and physical damage resistance debuff. And you'll also have the ability to use this resonant gravimetric implosion beam for 30 seconds that will deal some kinetic damage that scales up with EPG. So let me show you what this console looks like. Some of you may have seen this in action before, but I'm gonna fly over here.
Enemy ships warping in near projection station Alpha. We have multiple hull breaches, Sarge.
And that blue net there is what it looks like. And then there's the bit I can do, the beam to do some additional damage. Again, I'm not really on an EPG build, but if you're on an EPG build, you can probably get a bit more from that. The engine disable is the big part of this for PvP, and the kinetic debuff is the part that I was interested in when I was using this on a torpedo support platform for DPS chasing. But on an EPG build, you may find it interesting as well for that physical debuff and for the visuals it provides. The Starship trait here is Efficient Demolition, and what this does is upon defeating a foe, it will add 5 power to whichever subsystem is lowest for 30 seconds, and subsequent activations will provide 10 power instead for 10 seconds. And this does stack from the test that I've done with it, so I can show you some footage of this in action over on the Tribble test map. The test dummies aren't available, but you can still spawn in some other enemies there. So keep an eye on my power levels here. I increased my shield power just a smidge so that my ox power would get increased, and I took ox to bat off just so I could see what the power levels would be like. So again, keep an eye on the ox power number at the bottom. So you saw that it was clearly stacking. It was letting me get up at one point there to 125 ox power briefly. So there's no stack limit there, but those stacks do fall off after 10 seconds. So if you're If you're not consistently getting kills on foes, the amount of power you're going to be getting from this trait will be heavily diminished. But if you're on an AoE heavy build like Fire at Will, Cannon Scatter Volley, or EPG, then this is a trait which could provide you quite a bit of power to whatever your weakest subsystem is. But the issue with that is, in most gameplay situations, that's probably not going to be the most desirable. It's nice, but would you want to run something that, gives you a bunch of extra shield or ox power, over something that's giving you a static buff of, like a 20-25% damage buff? Probably not. So it's an interesting trait. It just isn't one that really fits into the current meta. But if you're looking for something that would enable you to get all of your power levels really high, and you're on an AoE heavy build, then this is a trait that may be of interest to you. But again, from a meta point of view, I don't think I would ever slot this over a trait that's just directly providing a damage buff. And next up, for those of you wanting to see the ship in action, I've got a couple runs put together here: a solo Infected Advanced, a solo Wolf 359, and then an Argala Elite that I did over on the Triple Test server. For the build here, I think in all of them I was using basically what you see on screen now. So just a phaser Fire at Will setup, using all the nice phaser toys. And then for the torp, I just use the prolong one. When I'm running ETM for follow-up time, I like to have a wide angle torp on. And I could have done the wide angle quantum, but I felt like the prolonged fit better for the Wolf 359 that I did. For the bridge officer setup, there's that, just an aux to bat setup, and here's the duty officers that go alongside that. I did try Vincent Kish here, but it didn't really go off too much in the runs from what I saw. And here's the traits for those of you interested. I did have the trait from this ship on just while flying it around to try it out. But again, like I just said in the trait portion, I would personally run something else instead. I had Calm before the Storm on before I unlocked that trait, and I was getting through things a little bit faster with Calm on than the Efficient Demolition trait. But that's the build that I was running. If you have any other questions about it, feel free to drop them down below. And if you guys want to see a full build video for this ship, then again, let me know down in the comments below. Let's start off with the Infected.
Warning. Ship is under attack.
Scanning the nanite transfer. Got it. Additional data surveillance. The nanite probe will repair the transfer. Stop now. The probe is closing in on the transfer. Destroy it. You will disarm your weapons and escort us to Sector 001. If you attempt to intervene, we will destroy you. Task Group Alpha, engage the Borg. Groups Beta and Gamma, hold for now. Melvin here. Moving. Focus on destroying the king's weapons. The Yamaguchi is moving in to assist. Forward. The knowledge and experience of the human. The god. Part of us now. It has prepared us for all possible courses of action. Your resistance is hopeless. Task Group Beta, move in. Remember, the Enterprise is on its way. Attention all hands. This is the Hood. We're moving to attack speed now.
Wait, this is the roll zone. Moving into report. You took survivors from the territory. Commander System managed to evacuate many civilians.
The Enterprise is approaching. Perhaps I can buy them some time with the parlay. Looks cute and double. This is Admiral Sampson. I wish to discuss the terms of our surrender. Discussion is irrelevant. There are no terms. You will disarm all your weapons and escort us to Sector 001, where we will begin assimilating your culture and technology. Fear, they're hitting us hard.
This is the room. Building, taking a flight. Cover us.
One spear down. 2 to go. That's the last of this spear. Focus on the
You have entered a... Looks like our fight got them to notice us. Let's go over and ask if their boss might come out of hiding. Keep concentrating fire on individual ships. Separate them and whittle down their numbers.
We will not go quietly.
You will stand down and surrender to the Benton Guard. Sensors are picking up small habitations in some of the asteroids, possibly consistent with bolt holes and temporary hideouts.
We do what we want, where we want.
Picked up a tight beam transmission on a new frequency. We're jamming that spectrum on their comms now, but it was probably a call for assistance.
I'm taking you with me.
That's got them. Excellent work.
Now, I want to be perfectly clear that when it comes to the performance of ships in stow, there's been so much power creep that you can basically make any ship more than capable of being able to go in and clear the content, which, I mean, hopefully you just saw. But, you know, I know this is a ship that I've been critical of in the past, and some of the other CCs have also been critical of it. And I agree that it is definitely a weak ship. It should never have been a lockbox ship. It should have been in the C-Store, especially given that its stats are worse than the prior C-Store Miracle Worker cruisers. But even though it's not as desirable as the other ships out there, you can clearly still put together something on it that is going to be very effective and can clear the content. So, you know, isomags definitely have been a big boost in that regard. I know some of you comment that you're tired of hearing about the isomags already, but they have truly changed the game quite a bit, especially for engineering heavy ships like this. And parse-wise, I figured I'd show you the infected here. I was just running, you know, phasers with fire at will. I did have the disco 3-piece on, the deflector, core, and shield from the Discovery reputation. Those have an ability on them called Mycelial Lightning, which is really good for helping to take things out fast in normal and advanced content. The Vincent Kishtoff looks like it managed to go off probably 1 or 2 times in the run. You see that I had a fire at will 3 at one point, and that again is from that Vincent Kishtoff, which has a chance to upgrade your fire at will or your CSV or whatever up to the next rank. And then nothing else here is really that surprising, but I figured I'd show it for those of you that wanted to see it. Nothing really under pets there. The demolition field platform, the console off this ship, did 182 DPS. Did it do anything else here? Doesn't look like it. Okay. So yeah, the console didn't do too much for me. I think on an EPG build it might do better, but yeah, for a more general build doing like phasers like this, you're probably not going to get a ton out of the console. But yeah, I mean, overall, you know, the Parliament, I definitely don't think it's the best ship out there. I also don't think it's necessarily the worst. I think that title goes to the Cabali Samsar or the Fleet Excelsior. Both of those ships are quite brutal with their setups. I do think that the Parliament is still on the weaker side of things. And again, I think that this really should have been a C-Store ship off the bat. If this is the ship that they put in as the premium ship in the 14th bundle, I'm not sure how well received it's going to be, because the bridge officer setup on it is just simply too restrictive, I feel, for a lot of people. You're not going to be able to run Beam Overload 3 on this ship. You can't even run a Fall 3. You're not going to be able to do a Torp Spread 3. You just have a lot of limitations with this ship. And if you're not wanting to do isomags, that's going to make the value of this ship go down even more, because this ship needs the isomags to really be able to pump the numbers out. So yeah, I think I went into this video thinking that that the Parliament, was definitely on the weaker side of things, and I do still feel that way. I don't think it was as bad of an experience to fly as I was expecting it to be. The ship was still able to go in and clear the content that I was doing. It's not going to be as viable as some of the other cruisers out there, especially some of the C-Store ones. The Lexington, like I said in the ship comparison, the Lexington is a C-Store American worker cruiser that released like 4 months after the Parliament and is much, much more capable. So if this is the ship in the 14th bundle, I foresee we're going to be in a position similar to last year, where they're probably going to end up seeing a negative response to the point where they have to put some other ship in. I do want the Parliament to be on account-wide unlock, but I just feel that the value that it's going to offer for the general player base isn't really there. I've already seen a lot of people leaving comments that if this is the premium ship in the 14th bundle, that they'll probably just avoid picking up the bundle and just grab 1 or 2 of the ships in the C-Store that look appealing to them. So the part of the reason that I'm doing this video is that hopefully, some of what I'm saying here gets over there. So if this was their plan for the 14th bundle, they can plan ahead rather than running into the surprise response like they saw last year. Again, I think the Parliament in the bundle would be fine, but there needs to be something else in there alongside it for the premium offering. The California, if you want to keep to the theme options, the California, that's a slightly better version of this, and that would appeal to everyone that's a fan of lower decks, but it would still keep the really meta stuff reserved for future MUDs bundles. The Excelsior 2, I mean, I would of course love, especially with how many Excelsiors were in the Wolf 359 battle. The Mirror Warship would be great, the World Razor, but a lot of those ships are still too new in my opinion. But yeah, I think the general summary is the Parliament on its own, I don't think it'll be a seller for the 14th bundle. So hopefully we see more than just the Parliament in there. That's going to be it though for today. Again, thank you to all channel members and viewers for the continued support. See you guys around.